how often of late is paying your quarterback the huge, massive money instead of starting over the right option?
Go ahead, give us the examples, right?
Russell
you've got
Wilson,
Derek Carr, Russell Wilson,
Kyler
you
Murray,
have Kyler
Deshaun
Murray.
Watson yet to see, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, and then you've got, obviously, Mahomes.
But you're just essentially naming every quarterback who's gotten a new contract in the last 3 years. Like, big money is every single contract now.
But in the alternative of not and drafting and
just
starting
blowing
over.
it up and starting over, like how often do you hit on a quarterback? It rarely happens.
I don't think it rarely happens, but I think if you look at Dallas now and you look at the money you've spent and expected to win, you've done nothing. Absolutely nothing with the money that you spent on Dak Prescott. So would it be the same thing as starting over? Kind of feels like it.
Yeah, it's a hard spot to be in. Like, when the Jags came off 2017, the Jags have lived this a little bit to a lesser degree. They didn't have to pay Blake Bortles that kind of money, but from a business standpoint, he was going to play on the fifth-year option. The smarter move was probably to let him play on the fifth-year option, see what happens, see if he earns it. Well, you're trying to tell your players, hey, we care about you, we love you, we appreciate what you've done. We're trying to tell the locker room that. You're trying to do good business. They didn't make a crazy deal on Blake Bortles, but the bottom line is they shouldn't have done a deal with Blake Bortles. And I'll always go back and say I blame a little bit Tom Coughlin here. That's why he was the EVP. He was supposed to have known, okay, listen, this feels like it's a good decision, but it's not supposed to be it's not a good decision. Like, that's what he was brought in to know and to make that claim. And they didn't. They just rolled onto it. He signed off on it. And so I never thought, like, Tom got enough criticism for that. I know he was Caldwell's guy, but he was supposed to be the EVP to see that and make that decision and say, listen, I know what it looks like. This isn't what it looks like. And I think it's hard, though, for organizations, once you feel like you have the guy, you get forced into being, okay, we got to pay him. Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco is another one, Kasey, to your point. I think like you felt like you had to pay Dak. I remember that conversation.
I remember it too, and at $40 million, I remember the number being high, but I don't think anyone had a gun to Dallas's head at all. I think they desperately wanted him long term, and I think the number 40 was making everyone uncomfortable, but they were going to sign him for whatever it took. I think a little bit of this conversation is lunacy, if I'm being honest with you guys. I think for you to say just go out and get a quarterback is so reductive to how hard it is to land one of these guys who's a premier passer. Like, even if you just look at the third round and higher, I won't even count fourth round and under. Just from 2017, let me rip off some of these names. You tell me what percentage here people are hitting on, who's leading franchises. Because from 2017 in the third round, you're talking about C.J. Beathard, who's on this team. Are you confident C.J. Beathard is leading the Jags to the playoffs if you want to blow it up after, Blake Bortles? You got Davis Webb? No, back up. Deshaun Kaiser, back up. Deshaun Watson, he hit. Mahomes hit. Trubisky did not. That's 17. 2 out of what, 5? Okay. Mason Rudolph, Lamar Jackson, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. 2 out of 6 or 7? Okay. 2019, you got names like Will Grier, Drew Lock, Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones, and Kyler Murray. You didn't hit on any one of them. So, like, for you to sit here and be like, oh, just blow it up and go back to the draft seems so unlikely.
Right. So your argument works here, but not that they paid Kyler Murray $46 million.
Well, he showed them.
And you just said they didn't hit on any of them. But, yeah, let's pay him $46 million.
You said Kyler Murray did not work out. I like Kyler Murray.
You just said none of those worked out. You just said it.
In your opinion is what I implied. I like Kyler Murray. So 1 out of 6 in that draft, fine. I think Kyler's actually going to be a decent pro. Maybe it's not happening for him right now. He's had injuries the last 2 years. I think they'll get it together and make it work. Will the $46 million annual contract make sense? I don't know. But I do think he's going to be a good player.
I think people like Geno Smith this year, I think what San Francisco has done, and what a team like Carolina did, where when you finally get back to Sam Darnold, he plays well. I think it has to do with if your coaching is good and you put people around him, you can find people to do good. Like, if the alternative is $50 million for Dak Prescott or Cooper Rush, I'm thinking about it, because think of that $50 million you could spend to get Cooper Rush better players.
But were you thinking about it before Cooper Rush stepped on the field for his first win of this year? Like, no, you're going, oh my God, Dallas is screwed. Everyone did. That was the thing. No.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a good argument you guys are having right here. I like it, and I'm listening and digesting it. I think the curiosity here is Kyler Murray, those guys made bad decisions because they caved into his pettiness. They didn't have to pay him right then. They could say, show us more, man. Show us more. Like, you've got to earn the right to get it. If I'm organizations right now and I want or this agent for XQB wants to rip up the deal and be like, pay me early. Well, if you're not Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and hopefully Trevor after next year, if you're not putting up those kind of results and showing that, but it's still a bit of a mystery, a la Lamar Jackson to a degree, then I think you have every right as an organization to be like, look at all these examples of where it didn't work out. Should we pay you right now, or should we see another year of it before we pay you? Like, I think that's a fair question to ask from a business standpoint, because it really does hamper you when you miss. And Kyler Murray, to your point, Aaron, might still be good. It may be coaching. It may be the situation. But I don't think he had earned the right to get a $46 million a year
So let's
contract.
go through this then, because we're about to talk about Trevor Lawrence after the next season, coming to the end of his third year. And so if I told you 3 years into his contract, Trevor Lawrence threw for almost 4,000 yards 3 times, threw for more than 20 touchdowns 3 times in 3 years, made the Pro Bowl 2 times in 3 years, and then had a vote for Offensive Rookie of the Year in his rookie year, despite it not being his best. Don't you think that earned a contract extension in the third year?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
And if you see where contracts are going, with Rodgers making 60 and Lamar asking for 50 guaranteed and Deshaun Watson getting all that money, you're looking at Kyler going, if we're going to lock this guy in for the next 10, he needs a big chunk. Mahomes just got $450 million. Mahomes just got $500 million. We can't look at Kyler and go, here's 130. You saw how that worked out with Lamar. Like, Kyler Murray is not bad. He's got a good completion percentage, almost at 70% every year he's played, even with the injuries. Almost 4,000 years every year he's played, except for this last year with 11 games played versus 17. 24, 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's never been higher than 12 interceptions. The guy can run. The guy can complete a pass. He's a good quarterback. He had a bad team this year. He had injuries this year and injuries last year. The coach got fired. The GM got fired. You're going to regret Kyler Murray, all this besmirchment, Kasey.
I don't think I will.
Well, because here's the deal, and this is where it's tricky with even Lamar Jackson, guys, is what have you done in the post? Like, where's it getting me? It's getting you good statistics, fantastic. It's getting me 0 playoff
I think
wins.
that's a fair question. That's a fair question. If the goal is the playoffs and the Super Bowl, then show it. But that's not when these guys get paid. It's just not.
I just think it's a tough spot for the organization to be in, because I don't disagree with you that I think when I have a guy, I've got to keep a guy.
Got to keep him.
But the salary is so expensive now that there's got to be levels of this. Like, Patrick Mahomes is worth twice as much as Kyler Murray, in my opinion. He's not worth $4 million more or the same price. It's not even close.
All right, but Kyler Murray just finished his 4th year. So let's say they didn't re-sign him last offseason, and he's going into his 4th year. Maybe he gets hurt. Now next year he's in his 5th year option. You don't have him signed on an extension. If Kyler Murray has 4,000 or more yards, 24 or more touchdowns, 10 or less interceptions, that dude is going to be asking for the moon. You're going to wish you had 46. And instead, you're paying him closer to 50 or 55, like we were talking about with Trevor. I called my shot this morning. I thought Trevor's going to be up at around 55 when that deal gets done.
So what would Kyler have gotten
Super
this year?
Bowls.
Kasey, if Kyler Murray had been paid after this season instead of after last season, what would he have gotten? Less or more?
Well, I mean, to be honest, if it was after this season, they wouldn't have re-signed him. They have the 3rd pick. They would have drafted a quarterback and blown it up.
I don't know that they would have drafted, but I don't think they would have given him the big money deal because he got hurt. He didn't have to. He didn't prove it. He would get less money this year. He wouldn't want the deal.